John Ford, Eddie Schlaner, Heather Murray, Dave Harlan, Nick O'Connor, Glenn Fisher, Robot Dancing, Algorithmic Poetry, Electronic Cocktails, Pablo the Digital Dog, Big Data Giveaways, Tech Guru Tennis, Freelance Speed Dating, more Robot Dancing, Clark and World Pub Crawl, and a whole lot of other madness besides the 3rd of July.
Welcome to The Fix. Sit down with copywriting experts Nick O'Connor and Glenn Fisher as they review, discuss, and improve real-world copy sent in by you. This is The Fix. That was a sexy, really brought me into the mood, the vibe, the sick event that we're hosting in July.
Well, this is an exciting moment. We've been working on Fix Fest 2 more or less since Fix Fest 1 finished last year. We were talking about this point in time last year in the pub crawl that followed the event. We were plotting how we could come back, do things better, make the beer colder, make the weather better, make the grass greener.
The grass will technically be greener. So we've done that by changing that was the date. We've brought it forward to be in the summer. So it is now summer party vibes, which that is one thing we have changed because we want it to be warmer. Does that mean the beer will be colder though? That is even more important that the beer is colder. Are you on that, Nick?
I am. One of the biggest regrets I had about last year was beer related. So one is I bought all the beer at Costco because we didn't charge for anything really beyond the ticket last year, and we won't be charging for beer or anything this year either because then we'd have to have a license. It's easier to just give it away. So I bought a load of Corona. What I didn't realize is they were massive bottles, and then they were almost impossible to get cold. So because I'm a problem solver, Glenn, what I've done this year, planned to buy smaller bottles, and we're going to have a massive ice delivery, which is going to be dumped over all the beer. So yes, and by the way, this is a specific call out in the feedback that we got last year, which was overwhelmingly good. One attendee, Andrew Natton, wrote back and said that there were huge bottles of lukewarm Corona. So I thought, right, got to solve that. So yeah, the beer will be colder. The point is, we're going to try to take everything that we learned last year and build on it, do the good things, repeat the good things, tweak some things that we thought we could have done better, and put a whole new spin on the day. So that's why today is so exciting, because I
accidentally hugged Andrew Nathan around the bum because he's so inexplicably tall. When you go to kind of grab him, and I'm quite short, I just touched his bum, maybe inappropriately.
He mentioned that on his feedback form as well, but he'd CC'd a few other people in.
Yeah. So with the grass is greener, the weather will be warmer, the beer will be cooler. The venue will be as it was because it was so brilliant. We're at Crypt on the Green again, underneath St. Thomas's Church. Is it St. Thomas?
No, it's St. James's Church in Clark.
St. James's Church. Don't know why I was thinking Thomas. Under St. James's Church in Clerkenwell. The speakers are different though, Nick. Tell us about some of the speakers that we have lined up.
Well, before we talk, so obviously I rattled off the speakers at the start and we'll come to them in a second, but before we get into too much depth about them, I just want to talk about why we've chosen them. And why have we chosen the theme AI or die? Let's just start there. So we know that AI has been a big deal for the last couple of years. And I would say the first year after ChatGPT, most of what I saw about AI was, I'm going to put it in the bracket of kind of charlatanism. It was people saying, I've mastered ChatGPT so that you don't have to. And that's all. I mean, in England, we would say bollocks, just total nonsense. But in the last sort of 6 to 9 months, I've started to have more conversations with businesses and with writers that I really respect, some of whom are speaking, we'll come back to that, who are using AI in interesting ways. They're not just talking about it. They're not selling products related to it. They're not trying to use ChatGPT as a hook to get you to sign up to their newsletter. They're actually working writers who are either adopting AI in certain ways, or they're responding and adapting to it one way or another. They're all doing it in different ways. There's no one way to do it. And I'm having more and more conversations with businesses who are using AI, not necessarily to replace copywriters, but as part of their marketing mix, as part of their testing process, as part of their research process. So I thought, do you know what? This has now reached a critical mass that's big enough that it feels like it's time to start sharing some of this stuff, to start getting people to talk about how they're using it, how they're adapting to it, how they're responding to it, because I think that's something that all writers now need to do. Even if you're an anti-AI person, and Glenn, I'm going to pretend you are for a second because that's the position you often adopt. I do still think it's going to be part of your world. You know, we've been on calls with other businesses, business owners who we've been talking about copywriting projects with, and they've brought AI into the mix as well. Could we do this? Could we do that? So whether you like it or not, you've got to respond to it. And there are some really, really top level writers who are now using it in some quite interesting ways, not necessarily just to write copy. In fact, almost never to write the copy, but to approach the idea on the research side, things like that. So it's time to respond. It's time to think about it and get your arms around it. And so that's one of the additions that we've made from last year, which is we're tackling a big theme, probably the biggest theme there is right now. So that led us to our speakers list. Glenn, you're desperate to say something about AI. Go on.
No, I was actually, two things. I was first of all thinking, am I AI agnostic? And then I was trying to spin out a massive metaphor about Christianity and AI. Couldn't do it. So I thought I won't say that yet, but it's on my list to develop. But second, even so, still can't talk about the second thing, but we won't say it now. But one of the speakers that we are yet to announce, just when you were saying about it there, it's not about replacing the copywriting necessarily. It's about aiding you to help you how you can write better copy. And it's really interesting. I've not even shared it with you yet, Nick, actually, but they've done us a little widget thing, which we'll be able to share with everybody who comes to Fix Fest 2. And we'll do live feedback based on it. So that's all to come, but that's not even what we're announcing yet. So we're going to drip feed bits and bobs out. We're not announcing all the speakers today. But yeah, so that's really important. You're not necessarily going to hear all about AI, as in just talking about it. You're going to see how it's being applied, how it's being used by individual writers or at the business level. Some of the stuff that's being done by businesses that are adopting AI, marketing businesses and copyright businesses, advertising agencies, is really quite interesting. Now, you might go away thinking, you might spend the day listening to it all, think there's absolutely nothing in this, I'm not worried at all. You might go away thinking, Christ, I'm really worried now. This is going to eat my lunch. I need to work out what I'm going to do. The idea isn't to convince you of one thing or another. You're not going to get to the end of the day and say, I'm sold on AI, but you will be more informed and you'll have a better sense of how it's actually being used. Because that was for me, that was the moment. I was in a pub with another writer and I was like, you're using AI? And he was like, yeah, listen to this. And he talked me through it. I'd had a few, so he probably had talked me through it more than once. But some of the ways it was being used was like, that's okay. I never even thought to do it like that. I thought it was just like, I don't know, a research aid. Like what would have taken a day might only take 10 minutes. Nothing like that. We're talking about much more interesting uses. So, and that's the way I approach the world. I don't necessarily want to hear about it. I want to see it. It's show, don't tell. I want to see how it's being used, because that's how you judge with the value of something, when you actually see somebody who's using it. So everybody's going to be approaching the theme from different angles. So some of them are going to be giving actual demos of how they're using AI in various different ways.
Others are going to be talking about how they're responding to it or the way they're thinking about their copywriting now post Chat GPT. God, what an awful name Chat GPT is. There's just too many.
I can barely say most things, but Chat GPT is a very chewy word to get, phrase. It's a chewy acronym to get through. It's just not very good. I'm looking forward to the next iteration of that when it becomes something more, when the branders get hold of it and turn it into something a bit more mother consumable, that my mum can say.
Well, if I have my way with one of the guests that we haven't signed up yet, or we're in sort of tentative discussions with, they've actually got their own AI software that they might download for us. It has completely different name, better name than ChatGPT. Anyway, let's talk about the speakers. So that's the theme. And that's, to be honest, that's why you should come. That alone, tackling that theme, I think is going to be worthwhile for you, not just on the day, but, in the future as well, actually tackling that challenge head on. Obviously, there's a ton of other stuff going on as well. It's not going to be a business conference all of a sudden. I might wear flip-flops. It might be hot. Do you know what I mean? It's still going to have the Fix Fest vibe, which if you were there last year, is relatively loose. It's still me and Glenn bumbling our way through a day of running an event for some reason. So it's not going to be a business conference. And if somebody turns up in a suit and tie, we'll be saying, Perhaps you need to go to a different crypt, mate. I think
I immediately thought then, I know I'm not going to name them because it's unfair, but I immediately just pictured the person who will be wearing a suit and tie, most likely. And I thought, wow, that's that person in my mind. And all power to them for being sartorially smart.
You're thinking of Conor McGregor, aren't you?
Conor McGregor is coming, I believe.
He's going to wrestle a robot. Anyway,
he's going to discover how low my center of gravity is and how difficult I am to knock down, which everybody always just underestimates how difficult it is to get me on the floor. But Conor McGregor's going to
unless you want to, and then there's no stopping.
Unless I want to go on for it.
One of my favorite moments from last year was, I can't remember why this happened, but in the lunch break, I made you do some burpees.
And I did them, I believe. You were surprised.
Yeah.
I went for a jog this morning. It's a new Glenn.
Right. Let's talk about the speaker. So we've got John Ford. So if you're part of the direct response agora world, you'll know John as pretty much I'm going to call him a living legend, but I'm going to see him next week. And he'll probably say, why are you calling me that? John is
I wrote living legend, and then I felt that it sounded bad. It also made me think that some people who I know who it kind of implied that they aren't living, and I thought, no, they are still living. So that's why I dropped the living legend. But he is one of those that we won't.
So if you know John, you know John. If you don't, he's very, very experienced in the field of direct response and financial copywriting. One of the reasons that having John there, now, I would say John isn't sort of a natural, he's not somebody who you have to sort of twist his arm to get him to speak sometimes, because he's a writer's writer. He's not really a pontificator. He's still writes. He's been in the industry for well over 30 years. Yeah, I think he started in 94. So anyway, 30 odd years. And he's never stepped away from the writing. And when I started as a copywriter, I met John for the first time in France. I remember thinking, I want to be like you. I don't want to lose my love of writing and become, a speaker on the circuit or whatever it might be. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but he's really stayed true to his sort of writing values. And that's why having him speak is such a coup for us, because again, it comes back to some people who are actually using the technology, actually responding to the technology, actually thinking about it and applying it in their own work. So you're getting loads of experience. But I can tell you for a fact, in fact, John Cayley was in the audience last year. We were in the pub the night before, and at about 10 o'clock, I was like, I better go. We've got to get up early tomorrow to set the room up. He was like, I better go back. I've got to have a promotion done by tomorrow. He needed to go back to his hotel room or his Airbnb and keep writing. That's John through and through. He's a writer's writer. So There aren't
Yeah.
many people with his experience or credentials on that front.
I always, whenever I think about meeting John for the first time, I was on a bus from Paris, Montparnasse station. You have to get like a bus for like 2 hours to Quartermere, where the Bill Bonner's chateau is, where you do the writers retreats for Agora. And I got on there, and I don't know, I must have met John before in London, and then like hooked up with him again or something. There, he's a lover of good music and a really thoughtful person, so we kind of connected. But I can remember sitting there with him, and he was the first man I'd ever seen who had an iPad, and he was like, "What's that? Like, this is incredible. What is this thing?" And he was figuring out how he could like use the Notes app on an iPad to do that kind of. And it's stuck in my mind. He does famously love Apple products, but it actually speaks to what you're speaking about now, though, is because he's always looking at how technology can not hinder or take away or think. It's how it can develop and help you as a writer. And that's what he's doing with AI. So it's really interesting that it's like even that kind of jokey, remembering John sat there with his, like the first man to ever own an iPad. It's like, actually, he's going to be there again in this technological advance a bit before everybody else and pushing things forward. So he's also a cool guy.
He's a lovely bloke as well, of course. So he'll be speaking. Do you know what, Glenn? We're going to be here all day if we do this long on each speaker.
Yeah.
So these are in no particular order, by the way. So John will be speaking. Eddie Schlainer will be coming over from, where does he live? Chicago. So I'm not entirely convinced I think he's come in because he's got 2 young kids and he's in over his head, as anyone who's got little children will know. That was when we spoke to him, he was like, I can't wait. Get away from the kids. But I'd say of all of the people we've had on the fix as guests, Eddie is probably in the top 5% in terms of or in my estimation, in terms of how good a writer they are, especially in the world of influencers. I'm going to call him an influencer, high profile people in the copywriting world. It's a patchy old world, that, because there are people who are very, very good at getting people's attention and building a big e-letter and things like that, but they're not necessarily great writers. And it might be controversial to say that, but if you're an influencer and you're not a great writer, then fuck you. Like, you should be there because you're a great writer. And Eddie ticks that box. I'd say he's one of those people whose stuff I read all the time. He's one of the best writers. He's a real writer's writer. And again, that goes back to the thing with John, where we're trying to bring real writers, people who are masters of their craft, and then ask them to address something that's worrying a lot of copywriters. These aren't people who've just got on the bandwagon and want to talk about AI because it's hot. These are real writers who are addressing a real subject. So that's going to be the thread all the way through.
Yeah, without like sounding like name drop hour, but like when we had Simon Munton, the head of copy in Australia for Agora, over for the boot camp recently, we were in the pub discussing like what it takes to be a successful copywriter, and we had a kind of like yes moment, because we was like, people don't seem to care about writing as much these days. Like it's a secondary, hopefully, if I'm being kind. Often it's like tertiary, if that's what third means, but like it's not even the secondary thing. It's certainly not the first thing. It's like marketing chops, influencer shit, all that kind of nonsense. Then it's like, oh yeah, and we like writing. Actually, sometimes it's not even that. Then it's like, oh, and we like products and make marketing and all. And then, oh yeah, I did a bit of writing. And it's like, oh yeah, I don't read. What are you on about? And it's like, what the hell's going on? And that's why I do think we've seen a significant drop in the quality of thinking, because writing is just thinking on the page kind of thing. It's a much bigger discussion, but just stick to Eddie. Yeah, he's a writer. Like, he's a brilliant marketer and a brilliant influencer, and he's so clever, and he's got so many like little tools and bits set up, and he's very calm, and it's all brilliant. But don't forget, he is a bloody great writer. I was going to go to in real life swearing then, but I won't. Keep it to online swearing. But he's a really good writer, and without being boring, a really nice guy. I was WhatsApping him yesterday. We were discussing some stuff, and he's either got really good AI across all of his things, so he's got the right tone of voice, or he's just a genuinely nice person. I'd like to think he's a genuinely nice person. So he's coming.
And so when we think about these sorts of things in the world of AI, tone of voice, storytelling ability, connection with another human being, what's the matter?
No, I'm waiting to see where your tenuous link goes. If it's where I think you're going, you were doing well. And I was going...
I'm building up to our next guest, which you
I can tell.
Things, storytelling, connection, ability to make people laugh, all of those things. That was a big factor in why we asked Dave Harlan to come and speak, because thank you.
What a link. I'm sorry I interrupted it. It was going so well. It was a good link.
In many ways. I'm a genius at these links. No, so Dave Harlan's going to speak. So if you've never met Dave, one of the nicest copywriters around, very big profile here in the UK, very, very funny man. I love reading his little... he likes sort of baiting scammers, doesn't he? That's one of the things he posts on social media. Anyway, I don't know the extent to which he'll be talking about that. But all those qualities, the things that make writers human, they're at a premium in the world of AI. So again, we don't want to sort of like put words in people's mouths or sort of deliver their speech before they deliver them. But that was one of the reasons we wanted Dave to come and speak, because again, it's not all about, oh, this is how it's coded, or this is how it works, or by 2030, this will be happening. It's about writing. We're writers, we're copywriters. Our job is to come up with great ideas and write them down, whether there's AI around or not. Now, there is AI in the world now, and we have to respond to that in one way or another, but some things never change. So that's why we asked Dave to come and talk. I've also, by the way, I wrote the little blurb in our sales page for the thing. I can't remember exactly what I wrote about Dave, but I said he rides a flying unicorn. I'm gonna make it my mission, because he's known as a bit of a funny guy, to make up as much shit about him as I can in our marketing, just to see if I can squeak anything through where it gets onto his Wikipedia page one day.
Well, I sent him the speaker thing today that I've got that I'll release at some point, and he said, "Oh, how did you know about that?" And I said, "I made it up." But I assume
there's nothing more fun than asking a really highly rated copywriter who loads of people know to come and speak at your event, and then in your marketing just go, just making stuff about it.
Which, to be fair, last year, Andrew Nathan, who you mentioned earlier, he did like he does an e-letter every week called Unmemorable Title, which is worth checking out because he's a great writer. But he said how good the little speaker posts were, the things I wrote, those 3 things about being serious, about being funny, and like having that kind of mix for marketing, which I've leaned into this year. But that's all part of it. It's all part of the fun and the merriment and the fun of it.
And of course, our 4th speaker, Heather Murray, you've claimed in our marketing that what does she do? Something terrible with a fox? I can't quite remember exactly what you said. She uses AI to train foxes to write website copy. So do you want to add a bit of light to that? Shed a bit of light?
I mean, whether she does or not, we will find out. That's speculative from my point of view. But no, I think, Heather, when you were talking about, I thought you were going on another of your magnum opus links there because you used the word demystifying. As far as like talking about like breaking down AI and the fact that it's not a worry and that it's not going to take your job and as a copywriter and all that kind of, again, bollocks that you see predominantly, I would say for every 5 posts, 3 of them are like, oh, it's bad, it's going to take away writing and all that kind of stuff, which I don't. As I say, I'm quite AI agnostic. I'll have firmed up my view by the time we get to July, and I'm using it to develop my talk. But what Heather's doing is like absolutely just tearing that all down and showing you how it actually works, how to understand it, what it means. I think that when you're saying about chat GPT, I say chat GBT. That's my problem. I want to say B, but it's PT. Yeah. But all of these phrases, it is, I think, and you wrote in the blurb on the thing today, which is almost telling. You use Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, and these words, they are naturally associated with AI because it's all future tech and blockchain and all this kind of stuff. And I think that actually plays into the fear that most people have about AI, is because you don't necessarily understand the technology that goes behind it. You think it's purely the realm of like 24-hour gamers and weird stuff like that goes on. It's not. It's very simple, and understanding it, figuring out what the technology means, how it works, how it can be applied, how it can make you more efficient, all of these things. I've kind of been a bit blown away by Heather's website, which you can go and find out and check out. But just demystifying all of that, she's doing an absolutely wonderful job, and appears to be miles ahead of everybody else, which is embarrassing almost, because it is like miles ahead. So
that's why she's coming. That's why
she's going to come and tell you all about that. She's very excited to join us. And again, I've not met her in person. I've only spent time over the ether with her. But she, again, seems to be a very nice person. We're going for a nice person rule this year. Nice people only.
With one exception, of course, which is that the two of us are going to be speaking. Now, I would take it as a grave insult of you to refer to me as a nice person. So I'm assuming you weren't talking about me.
No.
We are both going to speak properly this year. Now, if you didn't come last year, that won't mean anything to you. Last year, we were so focused on the day itself, comings and goings, setting the room up. It was the first time we'd ever done anything. We kind of ant and decked it. That won't mean anything if you're not English, but we just hosted the day effectively, which was more than enough work. But this year, we wanted to both actually present and talk about our ideas and our take on all of these subjects, mostly because, it's our event and we want to have our say on all of these things. And we've both got stuff to say about AI. Now, I'm going to lay the gauntlet down now, Glenn. I've already written, I'd say 80% of my talk. And you can quote me on this. It's fucking amazing. It's brilliant. I'm glad you used the word magnum opus, because, by the way, that was in real life swearing, not internet swearing. Do we have to put some sort of, you have to bleep me out. It'll be fine.
Oh, no, we're screwed as far as like explicit nature and all that kind of good. If we did any marketing of this, it is not getting out there on the, we'd certainly not get any paid ads on YouTube or anything like that.
Who needs that? We only want legends to come. Anyway, so I'm not going to tell you what I'm talking about. It's going to be great. I've been researching brain chemistry, Glenn. I've been reading a book about the brain.
I'm gonna lean into philosophy and the history in mine.
Well, there's also your costume budget, which we need to talk about. But £1,500 seems like quite a lot of money, really. But presumably you're going to dress up as a robot.
I want the best butter. I want the best butter spreading on me, not the cheap ass butter.
Anyway, that's probably more than enough for today. So that's a little taste of what's coming. The best way to go and get your tickets is, if you're watching on YouTube, there's a link directly beneath the video. If you're watching on Patreon, that's true also. If you're listening somewhere else or watching somewhere else, go to thefixcopywriting.com/fixfestai. It's right there at the bottom of the video. You can get your discounted tickets. The price will be going up as we announce more about what's going on the day. We've got businesses coming along too, showcasing technology, showcasing AI, showcasing that kind of thing. We'll do a separate episode all about that down the line. We also have some other speakers that we want to tell you about, but what's the point in saying everything all at once? There's plenty to be excited about. We'd love you to come along and join us. We like to joke about it, but it was a great day last year. And to be honest, the best part, not really the best part of the whole day, but the best experience for me was reaching the end of the day, going out for a drink in the evening, thinking there was going to be 20 people there on a bit of a pub crawl, just our close friends and whatever. And there being like 100 copywriters spilled out over the streets, and then going off and then adventure into the London twilight, we were still there. I mean, I know for a fact there's friends that travelled out of London that night on the 2:30 a.m. train. It went on pretty late into the night. It was great fun. We'll try and do our best to replicate or better that. So it's a great day to hang out with copywriters, hear about an idea that's going to be really important in your career, hang out with other speakers, and have a couple of drinks.
Yeah, it's on just a thing because someone asked me a question today. It's July the 3rd. It usually starts about 9:30, runs till about 4:30. That's like the actual stuff.
So there's time
from 4:30, it's booze o'clock kind of thing, but it's 9:30 registration and it's throughout the day.
So
we provide food. You don't need to go anywhere or anything like that. It's like it's all paid for. Do we? Yeah.
A couple of sausage rolls, pop them on a table. Quite warm.
Some of the butter that's dripping off me and my outfit.
You're welcome to that. It's a tax write-off anyway, so that's fine.
Yeah.
There's time to, if you live up north or outside of London, there's more than enough time to, we won't get started until be more than enough time to arrive that morning. And we'll probably do a drinks the night before. There was plenty of people who flew in from the States, from all around the world last year. So we'll do a bit of a social. There'll be all sorts going on that week, but we'll give you more information on that nearer the time. But the main thing we need you to do is, if you're interested, get your ticket now so that me and Glenn don't have constant sweaty moments of, oh God, will anyone come? We had this last year and we sold the whole event out. So we're not too worried, but it's nice to know that you're coming. So for Glenn's blood pressure alone, get your ticket as soon as you can. Let us know if you're coming with a business, if you bring in your whole team. So we had the whole writing team from Tesco.
Email us if you've got like more than 5 tickets, drop us an email and we can try and sort something out for you. Feedback at thefixcopywriting.com. Otherwise, thefixcopywriting.com//fixfestai. Go get a ticket, come and have some fun in the sun.
If you enjoy The Fix and want to get access to even more good stuff, join the Fix Accelerator today. Get access to special masterclasses from Nick and me, watch expert interviews with industry legends, join live copy feedback sessions every week, and get connected to our very own private copy network. Visit thefixaccelerator.com for more information.